And the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, has just taken stock of the economic impact of the coronavirus on African economies. The analysis talks about how the COVID-19 will affect the economies of Africa in general, but also those of the sub-region in particular, including Central Africa. To dissect this situation, we have with us Antonio Pedro, Director of the ECA Sub-Regional Office for Central Africa. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this interview.
Now, in the midst of the health and economic stampede caused by the coronavirus, ECA has provided scenarios on its impact in Africa. Are these not just informed opinion, just like everyone else?
No, this is based, first, I would like to recognize the efforts that countries in the region are deploying with a view to ensuring that this pandemic does not cause more problems to the Central Africa and Africa in general. Our analyses are based on evidence, on a couple of factors. We've reviewed the trade flows. As you know, currently China represents the largest trade partner of Central Africa, of which Asia in general is about 53% or so, and China is the largest partner. So that exposes the region to a contagion effect. So meaning if there is a slowdown in growth in China, it means demand for this region will reduce. Okay. We are confronted, of course, with a double jeopardy, meaning that in addition to the health pandemic, we are also suffering from the economic effects of it. And in Central Africa, this is very serious because of the macroeconomic instability that, as you know, since 2014 has been affecting this region. So we have very little fiscal space to respond to the health pandemic because of the economic macroeconomic instability, and that is going to deepen because of the crisis. Now,
can we have a general overview of ECA's situational analysis on the impact of the COVID-19 on African economies?
Yes, we are talking of a significant impact on revenues of our countries. A significant number are oil exporting economies. Let's speak of Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, and Congo. There, 30% or US dollars per barrel will mean that they will have 50% reduction in its revenues, export revenues. We also have other countries like a small island state like São Tomé and Príncipe, which depends on tourism. So a drop in travel from Europe, it means they will have a drop in revenue. Also, for more diversified economies like Cameroon, with the drop in demand of export products, agriculture and otherwise, from China will impact the revenue streams. So overall, we are looking at a significant impact that will impair the ability of our member states to respond to the health pandemic. That's why I was talking about double jeopardy.
Okay, now your medium-term projections speak of a growth rate regression of a factor of 4.1% in Central Africa in general and 3.1% in Cameroon in particular. Now, what sectors will be most affected? You talked of tourism a while ago.
Yes, the tourism in the case of São Tomé, but in the case of the oil exporting countries is essentially the oil sector, and in Cameroon is the export of the commodities. From timber to everything else that the country exports. So for that, we insist on the importance of diversifying the economy, and we welcome the decisions that were taken in the summit of CEMAC heads of state that was held here in Yaoundé of putting economic diversification at the center of the region's efforts to reduce the exposure to these external shocks. Because unfortunately, this is a situation that will last for a significant amount of time if no measures are taken worldwide to address the problems. Our case, we unfortunately cannot utilize stimulus fiscal by injecting money into the economy, because first, we are under structural adjustment program. There is no money to deploy in the economy like other economies in Europe, for example, and the US are doing, the so-called quantitative easing putting money so that the economy can recover. So we are faced with a very serious sort of constraints. In any case, we welcome the decision taken by the IMF and the World Bank to deploy some resources to countries in need. And this region will certainly need that fiscal space with a view to addressing the short-term measures to improve the response of our health systems, which, as you know, are fragile. But the longer-term and the medium-term paradigm is important to deepen economic diversification. In this particular case, the African Continental Free Trade Area offers a very, very good opportunity because an inward-looking investment and development agenda will reduce that exposure to risks coming from the external world.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Antonio Pedro. I must say you are Director of the ECA Sub-Regional Office for Central Africa. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.